chapter at Bengaluru.
Can the voice be a bit louder, please?
Oh, of course. Okay, let me plug myself in if you can't hear me, and then tell me if this is any better. Mukesh, how does this sound instead?
This is super. Thank you so much.
Fantastic, fantastic.
Well, thank you for calling that out, Mukesh. I appreciate that. Every now and again, it does that. Yeah, Bangalore and I have been connected with each other in support of the work that we do at the ICF Foundation. This is a global role with Ignite, and you have absolutely smashed it. You are doing some amazing work, and I am truly deeply grateful for what you have been giving as pro bono work in the organizations that you are. So I applaud you, and a little bit more of that when we speak towards the end of this hour. Nitin, thank you for supporting me through the conversation. I think I'm going to give you the heads up for when I want you to launch polls and that type of thing. Until then, though, let me just share my screen with you all and get some slides going so that you can see me, see some slides. And the intention is that we can then share a conversation for the whole thing. But let me just, first of all, take a moment just to get a sense of who you are and who I've got in the room. I'm already getting a sense of what is available in the room. So key issues of working within the team and working within the group. And I know that you've had an intensive week, 7 to 8 every evening this week. You've had Jenny talk a little bit about the distinctions of coaching. You've also had, oh, I've lost you all. Where have you all gone? Let's give me 1 second. Right. Are you all still there, my dears? You are. Good. All right, good. Let me, and you can still see my screen, or have I lost sharing my screen?
You lost the share.
We cannot see it right now.
Okay, here we go. The joys of modern technology is all I'm going to... Wonderful. Let's go all the way back. Ooh. Okay. So key issues of group and team coaching. For those of you who know me and know me really well, I am exposing myself and declaring that I am a technophobe, or as I love to describe myself as a technosaurus. And I think you've just experienced the first aspects of that. The opportunity for today is for us to get a sense of what's been occurring for you throughout the week. What have you been noticing about yourself? What struck for you? What sticks for you? And now how are you looking to be able to develop a much richer conversation for yourselves around group and team coaching? Now, of course, as I started, I was describing that Jenny started out with understanding the distinctions. And how are you delivering coaching in the context of a whole bunch of people moving away from the one-to-one conversation? And of course, Trish then introduced on Tuesday the conversation around building trust. Frankly speaking, if there is no trust in this conversation, then you're going nowhere. I think it's sheer simplicity. And then on Wednesday, there were some rich case studies from what I'm learning. I had the privilege to be able to dip in and out of some of these conversations when I could. And then, of course, yesterday, Anju described the context of presence and having the presence of and having the courage to show up. And I'm assuming, showing up authentically and showing up as the whole you as you engage this team. So let me just, that was fundamentally where we've got to. Today, I want for us to be able to talk through what are my perspectives of key issues. And then Nitin will, towards the end of this conversation, probably start to scratch his head and wonder, did I really brief her on this? Let me see what else this woman is going to innovate with. I'd like to talk a little bit more wider around team and group coaching too. So if you'll give me the permission to do that, I'd like for us to explore a bit further. To start with, I'm interested to know who you are. And I know there's a small handful of people joining the conversation as we're talking. So Nitin, launch the first poll, my dear. This is you currently asking the question, are you currently delivering team coaching or group coaching within your organizations, be it yourself working externally or you yourself working in-house in an organization? Are you currently delivering team or group coaching? Nitin, are you able to do the first question on the poll?
I think all of them will come together, right? The moment I launch the poll.
Oh, will they? Okay. We can definitely do it that way as well.
I've launched the poll. You guys must be seeing poll on your screens now.
Yeah.
Please, answer there are only 4 questions, very objective type. Please go ahead and answer. Are you able to see poll on your screen?
Yeah, Nitin, but I'm not able to see question 3 and 4. It's not going down at the moment.
Yes, it's only 1 and 2.
Well, if you scroll down, gentlemen.
I can see 3 and 4.
Oh, yes, I can. Yes.
How do you scroll down?
You have to scroll down on the right.
Okay. So are you able to scroll down yourself, or is that me playing with the scroll?
No, we can.
Great.
I'm not able to scroll down. I'm just trying.
Bobby, you don't have to do it. You don't have to go down. Just scroll down.
I know. I'm trying everything.
That's Yatin, that humor.
I'm
sure Saima must have experienced this a lot.
I'm always interested and blessed by the different ways that people manage and handle polls when they show up when I'm speaking. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, I'm receiving polls, 59.
Nitin, I'm not able to see 3 and 4. I'm not able to scroll down. I don't know why.
I'm sorry, Bobby, can't help you and your computer.
Okay, well then let's park the polls. That's not the main focus of today's conversation. And let's move.
I'll just give another 30 seconds. I guess there are about 4 or 5 people who are yet to.
Okay. Yatin, would you please put folks on mute?
Actually, it's me.
Wonderful. Let's see. So the first question for those of you who might be calling in on the phone, the first question was asking, are you currently delivering team and or group coaching at the moment? And there's a relatively 50-50 split. 47% said yes, 50% said no. Are you an internal or external coach? And 71% are external. And then there's a healthy split between internal and other. The third question I was asking was, as a coach, how would you rate your fulfillment in delivering team coaching, group coaching? And the majority of you are tending towards neutral, somewhat positive, and positive. So there's obviously a 6% showing for negative. So that'll be interesting to hear more about at some stage if we get to it. And the final question I was asking, as a result of this week's learning series, how likely are you to deliver more team group coaching? And clearly already there has been success. 65% of you feel, yes, this is the way forward. This is the way you want to be able to do this. So there's some wonderful outcomes there. Just to gather a sense of who you are and where you are, let's move into the rest of the conversation here. When Nitin asked me, so let's just talk through and walk through the issues, I wanted to share with you what is my experience, and it's also what I'm experiencing in sort of other organizations and speaking to other coaches who deliver works similar to mine. And I've fundamentally segregated where the potential issues might be. The first of which is, how is the organization championing the work that you as coach will deliver? And of course, first and foremost, and without even any hard guesses, the financial resources within its support of any work, ongoing work that occurs, is a huge issue. I know external coaches are constantly concerned about, well, there isn't money for this level of development. The organization can't handle it. It's focused on other aspects of spending money. So that is an issue. The second organizational issue that occurs is the culture that currently is established in the organization. What is the context in which the team operates in? How has this been established? What is deemed as being acceptable? What do people do when they rate coaching? Is it perceived as being something that's an end game strategy? Is it deemed as being an acknowledgement of people are having issues and therefore clearly need to have coaching as a remedial form of action? And I think traditionally that might have been the case 10, 20 years ago in the context of organizational work that we do as coaches. And now, of course, that's moving forward, and we're championing the success of individuals who are thriving in business. And those are the ones that we ultimately end up working with. So let's just pick on the first one. Financial resources are a concern, key issues. If we look at the next slide, here's a global study from 2017 from the Consumer Awareness Study that was done with in conjunction with PwC at the ICF. And 41% of respondents said the reason why we don't engage, and this is coaching in the context of single, team or group coaching, is because it's too expensive. And almost within the next year, we learn that from the qualitative analysis that the ICF completed through PRISM, and you know that there are national PRISM, chapter PRISM awards, as well as international global PRISM awards, from all the studies that the organizations that competed and applied for PRISM, simple suggestion, reports of return on investment, social return on investment, return on engagement was ranging from anything along the lines of 200 to 743% improvement in their specific organization. So this is the potential of what coaching can do when you apply it. And of course, this impacts the return on investment. If you're going to get that sort of statistic from the ROI, it's going to have an impact on the bottom operational savings. It's going to have an impact on your bottom line. And so as coaches, some of the issues around financing the work that we do for the organizations is we start to get better, we start to get more effective as to how we can communicate some of this really powerful statistics that we learn. The second tier, as I segregated the issues that occur in teams, is I describe it as the well-being of the team. I, in my own experience, have found in more than one occasion, if I shoot from team coaching from the very beginning, it often feels as if there is some pre-work that needs to be established. There is almost some teamwork that needs to be established so that we get a healthy measure of who we're working with and how they're working. So be it a new team, an established team, are they geographically located in the same place, or is this a virtual team and they tend to connect very seldomly? It's a good opportunity to also check in and understand what is their perception of what success means to them. Let's get a sense of what does it mean for them to be effective. Are they performing? How do they define performance? What is their style of how they work together? How do they lead? How do they trust? How are they held accountable? And who are they held accountable to? So we talk also around getting some clarities around their purpose, Do they know who they are and what they stand for? What are they good at? How do they go about doing what it is that they do? And how is it that they deliver? And do they define themselves delivering what they're supposed to be good at effectively? So I'm describing this as well-being, and there's a whole list of options here. What is the relationship of this specific team in the context of the rest of the organization? Does it coexist, or is it a standalone? What's its quality of collaboration when it works together? Of course, as you're working in a group, then you still need to know what is the well-being of these individuals as they gather together, as you're starting to walk them through a whole coaching conversation. All right? So there's some thoughts there. We'll take a moment and I'll come to you and give you a moment to ask questions. Nitin, please pay attention to the chat box for me, my dear, and shout out if there's anything that needs our attention together. And here's the third section. For me, I would describe this in the context of us. The key issues of us working together successfully in an organization, for a team, for a group, is how are we engaging with that team? Here's where I've found success in the past. If I'm working with a team in an organization, it goes without saying, the most profound success I've had is when I'm also in parallel tracking the individuals. So I'm delivering one-to-one coaching in this team alongside working with them as individuals. I might also be working with a few of them individually, and then they gather together as a group on separate occasions. But there's some sense of having consistency. As much like one-to-one coaching, I have the mantra, it's got to become regular, consistent, and ongoing. If one of our clients, one of our sponsors champions us for one team coaching conversation, that's going to be very different to knowing that you're going to have an engagement with that team on a quarterly basis over the next 2 years. You're clear then on knowing how much you're going to push, what level of challenge you're going to apply, and how you're going to track where each individual is in taking responsibility for the overall outcome of the team. And of course, we as coaches, we want to take some responsibility. Are we adding to the system when we start to coach this team? Are we adding a new dynamic that doesn't necessarily exist when we're not there? And being mindful of what that new dynamic might be. So I guess what I'm describing here is being clear about conscious and unconscious bias when we're working in a team together. And I will regularly find myself checking in to say, would I have done this any different if it was another individual, if it was somebody else? And if anybody and I learn this every time, if anybody says I have no bias, then that already is a bias. That's already conscious and unconscious bias. We're still learning about our unconscious biases, and the context of that can be positive or negative in its impact for the people that we work with. So they're fundamentally, we've picked out the 3 tiers of what would be impactful or what could be the issues in the context of team and group coaching. Okay. Nitin, dare you come off mute and speak and say, are there any comments or questions at this stage from people that is...
Not yet, and I've not seen anything in the chat box, but I have a question. You're talking about the team and group well-being, and I'm assuming here that you would have some kind of an inventory which you've created or provided to people so that you can have some assessment of how people are collaborating or not collaborating. Are there egoistic issues within the team? Are there common goals related issues in the team? Have you created some kind of an inventory or you use something which is off the shelf available?
You know, in the early days, and the business has been running for almost 20 years now, in the early days, I'm going to be controversial, and I'm very mindful that I might be sounding controversial to you. Yes, I did use inventory. I used psychometrics. I wanted to get a health check of the team, and I used one or two psychometrics, which I felt gave as close to an accurate outcome of where the team were. Nowadays, what I find is that the moment and this is just through experience of learning, my learning has been over the years, the more the inventory, the more opportunity I give the team to label themselves. The more the team gives itself permission to carry the label. Oh, I'm an IT, I'm a MBTI ESTJ. That's why I do that. Or I'm a Firo B this. Or I'm an Insights this color. That's why I behave in this way. And I learned over the years that actually I was introducing that language within the team, and it gave the individuals within the team something to hide behind. So nowadays, I'm going to tell you, I go in raw. I go in by myself. I take a clean sheet of paper and some marker pens, and we make a start. And
sorry, go ahead.
Saima, I have one quick question for you.
MG, just give me a minute. So, Saima, my question was not related to individual inventory per se, but I was thinking more of a team inventory in terms of how they collaborate. Is there something you do around that, or how do you assess that team, or how do you know the well-being of team? I think that's the question that I'm trying to ask.
So we start off with aligning some goals. I establish a conversation around VMAR. In my context, what I'm describing is, let's get a sense of what the team stands for. What are its outcomes? What is its vision? What's its mission? What is its purpose for why it sets itself up? And how is it going to identify itself? And so what is the individual role each team member has? As I start to understand more of that, we have a conversation around trust, integrity, authenticity. And of course, the juxtaposition of discussing trust means, well, how much control is there in this team if there isn't trust? And then we start to explore, what is the need for control? Because, you have one or the other. Yeah. As we start in these initial conversations, I'm actually starting to give the team language for how they can start to express themselves, language for how they can express themselves individually, and of course, collectively as a team. And then that starts to create better, deeper insight. We start to develop an opportunity for the team to be able to honor what each says, actively listening, honoring what each says, and understanding the good intent for why certain individuals feel a particular way in a team. So all of it is stripped away. There are no fancy games. There's no inventory. It's just humanity connecting with its best self. We talk to each other.
Thanks, Saima. MG, please go ahead.
MG, did you have that question?
I'll be on mute. Parallel tracking individual coaching with team coaching. Sometimes suppose there is a conflict between what you observe while you track team coaching and individual coaching. How do you resolve it? Like, see, while you coach a team, all members are not gelled immediately. Some are more gelled with the team, some are less gelled. They're still individuals.
MJ, what was your question?
Yeah, I'm saying, how do you resolve when you track and find differences between teams and individuals? What do you do?
And that is fundamentally the nail bang on its head, MJ. You've completely identified it. The reason why I think tracking it in parallel is so important is that what we do is, through those individual conversations, align what the team wants. If there isn't alignment, there isn't congruence between what the individual wants and how is their vision connected to what the team is working towards, we're going to have we're going to have a dysfunctional team. We're going to have disturbance. We're going to have people drifting away, not committed to the overarching theme of what the team have come together for. So it is our intention and our skill as a coach then to be able to work with the individual to find where is the alignment that consistently matches and sustainably matches with what the team or the organization is heading towards and wanting. Now, there will be moments when we'll come across and the individual will quite clearly say, you know what, this isn't what I want to be working towards. Let me stop sharing my screen for a second so I can see you all. The team will want to be able to go for one thing, and an individual will probably feel this isn't right for me. I don't feel connected, or I don't feel that this is sustainable for me as an individual. We have two options then, and as coach, our opportunity is to then ask the question, so what would be sustainable, and what could you, out of what the team are aiming to achieve, you connect to? And if there is nothing there that exists, then the opportunity and the conversation is this the best team for you to be in? You know, I have a really simple saying in the context of teams working together, and if an organization is being successful or not successful, when leaders come, when leaders are asking us the question, what do you think we need to change? Things aren't working, things aren't going well. It's quite simple. We change the people, or we change the people.
Oh, that brings me to the corollary question. As a coach, do you share your tracking observations with the leader? And if there is a misalignment between a specific individual and the team, do you share that with the leader? And is that a good practice? Because normally coaching is supposed to be confidential, etc., etc. So what happens?
Coaching is completely confidential. Under no circumstances, if I was to discover that an individual was not feeling completely aligned with what the team wanted, we would honor and respect and value that individual's perspective. And we would then continue to work with the rest of the team. Now, here's where I think there is a conversation to have with the sponsor, the champion, MG. And this is when there is consistency in each of the team members feeling that something's not quite right. We need to have another conversation. Then, with their permission, and in the context of a team conversation, I would then invite, there are a few similarities, there are a few themes that are showing up, and without identifying names, without pointing and saying, Nitin said this and Yatin said that, all we would fundamentally do is, there's a few conversations that we as a team, you as a team together aren't having. What might some of those conversations be? And in the team collective, we give them an opportunity to share it. We give them an opportunity to air. There's some occasions when the individuals don't feel courageous enough at that moment to share. And so we hang back and we equip them with what it is they do need to be courageous enough to share it with the team. I've often been asked by sponsors, and by sponsors, I'm assuming we're sharing the same language. This is the person paying for the work, might not necessarily be the client. I'm often asked by the sponsors, so who is it that I need to sack in this team because this team isn't delivering? If he's asking that question, he's probably the first person that needs to be sacked, quite basically. So we start to have a conversation around what could be valuable for the whole team. How can we be engaging everybody together rather than just picking out and trying to identify and then lay blame on an individual? So if something's not working for one or two of them, I would have a conversation with those individuals. If something isn't working for several of the people, I would then start to want to draw that out so that we can have that conversation within the team. MG, does that answer your question?
Thank you. That was very insightful.
Great. Any other questions? I'm seeing stuff on the chat box. Thank you, John. That's great. What am I reading here? Hiding behind tools. You know, some of us have this salacious appetite for wanting structure, and in the coaching conversation, we perceive that there isn't any. And so we hide behind the tools, you know. And if we're delivering effective coaching, that process in itself has beauty. That process in itself, as we trickle through the core competencies, will be the structure, or the only structure that you will need. So, from my regard, you know, this might be my first challenge to you all. Take down your tools. Just show up as the whole human being, and let your clients see you, and let your clients see the vulnerability of you, and it gives them then the permission to also be vulnerable, to also be seen. And I think through that we get some quite amazing, quite powerful outcomes. So let's move on, if I may. Are there other questions? Does anybody else have a shout out?
Not yet, Saima, please go ahead.
Okay. Let me go back to sharing my screen again with you all. Here we go. And let me flip across to, here's where Nitin wonders, what the goodness me, where is this woman going? Okay. So we've spoken of issues. We've spoken of what gets in the way of us delivering in the context of team, in the context of group coaching, and delivering coaching en masse, as I would describe it. And for me, that's enough of a conversation. You've also had 4 wonderfully rich days of having others speak into that space. I'm now taking the liberty of having you all available and wanting to ask you the question: can we explore the opportunities? Can we explore what could be possible through coaching if we were to engage larger groups of people? And what might be the impact? What might be the accessibility? What could be the fundamental shift for us if we were to take on a different view for how we could deliver coaching? So here's a conversation I wanted to share with you. 3.5 billion people living on less than 380 rupees a day, less than 380 rupees a day. And by the way, you know, even today, my concern is that with the cyclone having hit eastern coast of India, I am truly, truly wishing that each of you who are on this call today, your families and you are going to be sustainably well. But the reality, of course, is that half the world lives on less than $5.50 a day, US dollars a day. This that I do. And I, you know, first want to put my hand up, define myself as an executive coach. I work in corporates when I'm in this country. I work in corporates when I'm around Europe and Asia. I have an excessively large fee that I'm able to draw upon. It's very fast becoming an elite profession. It's very fast becoming something that we, you know, is accessible to the elite who can afford it, that have that capacity to pay at this level. But of course, when we have finances at this level, when you're living on less than $5.50 a day, coaching doesn't suddenly become accessible to you. And yet I'm stand for, and my complete purpose is to be able to create individuals so that they're living to their highest potential. Each of us, for sustainable societal progress, each of us can have the opportunity to live our most successful, optimum life. So I want to invite and engage you with just 3 simple questions. 3 simple questions. And the first of which is, how would someone living on 380 rupees a day benefit from coaching? What could be the benefit to them? How might they be able to move from that current life that they have? Second question, and I guess this is pertinent. I'm interested to hear your thoughts and comments. How might you, in your own organization, and some of you are sole traders, you're single bands, some of you might work within organizations, but how might you include social progress in the activity of your daily practice? So as you step out to be coaches, now see, this is an opportunity for team and group coaching. As you step out every day, how might you include social progress and enhancing the quality of humanity around the world in your working week? So do you look upon your diary? Do you open up to it? Does anybody even have a paper diary anymore? You know what I mean, right? You're looking at your computer screen or through your phone. Are you looking across that and asking the question, as I work through my daily practice, is there work within it that is progressing societal change, that is shifting where we are currently into a more meaningful place for us all to sustain a healthier lifestyle? And fundamentally, this is the last question, you know, how can we as coaches, and I'm asking this to myself, taken the habit of asking this to myself as I map out my weeks and I map out my year, how am I amplifying and accelerating the impact of the coaching that I do so that it can then be accessible to more people beyond the people that are with me face to face? What is that ripple effect that I can engage with when I'm coaching a small team, when I'm coaching an individual? How will they take coaching to beyond the conversation that I just had? So I'm fascinated to know what your thoughts are, what strikes you as I share these 3 or 4 questions with you. What might be useful for you in this context? Nitin, is there anything in the chat box? I'm not paying attention to it. I'm probably going to assume nothing.
As of now, your assumption is right. So I think towards your first question, what came to me first is that coaching, a coachee has to be willing to be coached. A person who is living at $5.5 per day is struggling through his survival needs.
Yeah.
Would he actually go out and look for a coach and say, hey, I need a coach? Or would he figure out how do I make my $5.5 to $7 a day? So I don't know if this need will come from a coachee, especially from this segment.
But on the contrary, I think it may be a transformatory experience for a person of that kind who never had an opportunity to think different from their day-to-day transactions. And 1-2 questions from the coach could set him alive and maybe throw up something altogether new for him instead of the drudgery of the day-to-day. I personally think now that you have set us thinking is a huge, huge life opportunity, Saima. Thank you for bringing this.
I agree with MG because Nitin, Saima, in India, we are used to house assistants, maybe a maid or a driver or a cleaner or something like that. And I think they are a good place to start with to try your concept of social awareness and coaching and helping them because they are as good as part of your family. So you don't have to go to the road to find a 380 guy like Nitin is saying, okay, I'll coach you and he may not spend you an hour. But the house is coming every day. That can be a great starting point. If you can uplift that, so be it.
Wow. Wow. And this is interesting because my intention is not that we sit at our office door awaiting 3.5 billion people to come through the door and we single-handedly coach each of them. I guess I'm wanting to explore a much more holistic, a much more global, much more wider, diverse perspective of how else can we integrate coaching as being very much a part of the sort of services that these individuals, 3.5 billion people, can have access to. What could be possible, what might be possible, is the conversation that we could have. And reaching out to the individuals that you come and connect with is a really powerful way of moving forward, isn't it? A really powerful way of moving forward. And listen, I'm looking at the chat now, and John, please, this isn't an intention to be ashamed. I applaud you for declaring that. This is not an opportunity for us to, hang our heads down in shame and say, here's the rate, here's the fees that I charge. I think this is an opportunity for us to say, how else can we be curious? Where can we innovate? What can we do to facilitate an engagement with the rest of the community that shares this planet with us? That's the gift we have. And why do I have enjoyed coaching my driver? Oh my goodness, how wonderful. Here's the gift that we have, and why share it amongst the individuals where I'm noticing I find myself working with the individuals who are already successful. And then what I'm doing is making them even more successful and more successful. Whereas, as we know, if you look at the population pyramids around some countries and some regions, Africa, for example, its population pyramid, its youth is increasing at a phenomenal rate. Now, in some contexts, that's a real excitement. And where is the opportunity for how we can support them? How can we support them?
Saima, can I share something? This is Ravi.
Please do, Ravi.
When I think through this, what really strikes me as a very good learning experience is in the field of sports. Some of the sports people who have really become extremely good globally or even otherwise have been coached, and they come from really the bottom of the pyramid that you're talking about. And the coach has made the difference, really bringing out their skills and intuition and everything to the fore and providing them and opening the door for opportunities. And I think that's something that we could really do. And especially people who know crafts, like somebody talked about a driver, but there are other people who have craft, they really very good, but they're looking for opportunity, and then you bring that forward for them as to how to discover the opportunity from within you. And I think that would make a very, very large impact. That's the learning that I have.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that, Ravi. What else is occurring for the rest of you? What thoughts? I'm seeing the chat move. What else is going? And please, let's not confine the questioning to just my passion. And I know you in this chapter, you have given in pro bono so willingly and so successfully with the Ignite project. And long may it continue. Long may it continue. I think Yatin will do it forever. The good man, my dear love, will do it forever. What other questions do you have of the work that I do and the opportunity of excelling your engagements with your teams and your organizations? So then let me speak on. And I'm wondering whether here are some tools that I would describe as my way forward for delivering successful team coaching. My engagement for how I would start and initiate a conversation. And I'm certain that you've had these conversations already through Jenny and Trish. In the first instance, it's really important that you establish the boundaries of how this conversation is going to be set up. Please be sure as you start speaking to people that they are clear on the dynamic in which you're engaging them. the context of how you're going to engage them, and what is the coaching conversation, and what is what I would describe the logistics, the management of establishing the team coaching. In that regard, it's keeping everybody abreast and keeping everybody else in the same sphere. You're starting to introduce a shared language amongst them all, so that each of them are clear then. But when we say confidentiality, we mean confidentiality in the team context as well as in the individual context. And 1 or 2 times I've had my very senior leaders test me on this. The cheeky individuals have tested me on what they felt was, this is impossible. I'm sure she's not capable of confidentiality. There's too many of us. How can she do this? And let me just share with you, one senior team decided that the organizational policy was no alcohol between 9 and 5. While you're at work, no alcohol. And the number 2 in the business had decided to take me out to lunch and said, I'm so happy that we are having launched this team development program. I think we need to celebrate. Let's take wine together. Now, I choose not to drink alcohol, but academically, he said, let's have a glass of wine to celebrate with lunch. And he had wine, which was clearly a violation of his business contract. The other one, another one of the number 2s in the organization thought, you know what, and between the 2 of them, they were playing me off. The other one just took me to a regular coffee shop, just everyday regular coffee shop, and said, I think we can just sit here and talk quietly over a cup of tea. And he was goading me. He was inviting from me, well, where are you going to meet with some of the other individuals? Waiting for me to perhaps say that Michael had, taken me to a nice fancy restaurant and had wine over lunch. Of course, I hadn't shared any of that. In not sharing any of that, the 2 of them, after about a quarter's worth of work, said, as we were all together in the team, we were recontracting and requesting how we were going to work and collaborate with each other so that it was really effective. The 2 of them, I'm noticing, are looking at each other and sort of whispering to each other. So I asked the question, is there something that you'd like to share amongst the rest of the team? And they declared themselves, we've been trying to wind you up because we thought we could crack you, was the conversation they had. We thought when you said confidentiality, it was just your way of getting us to tell you everything you wanted us to know. So you would tell the sponsor. So you would tell the chief exec. But actually, we've just realized over 3-4 months that when you say confidentiality, you mean confidentiality. And suddenly the volume of the work that we do working together shifted, profoundly shifted. So when we describe confidentiality, we've got to be really careful. And of course, for me, the work is in the contract. All of the work that we do successfully with our teams is the ongoing coaching contract. And it isn't done at the very beginning and then a line is drawn and then we get working. For me, there's something around constantly engaging, passionately checking in with each individual. Are we in full partnership here? Is there anything that's going to compromise our integrity and our trust? So those types of questions throughout every engagement can be incredibly valuable, because at any point, and it's often not declared, at any point, one of the individuals could become or compromised for one reason or another. And we want to be able to be in a position where we're ahead of that, one step ahead of that. All right. So for me, coaching contract is fundamentally all the work that you'll be doing, establishing trust and integrity. And as you do that, of course, you folks have had a conversation around neuroscience of how this all works, or maybe that's another day and another time. The opportunity then is to be able to give people that safe space, that in this moment, when we are together, we speak in this way. And when we are creating that safe space, I'm just simply talking about the core competencies here. we're then able to create challenge. And of course, here's the gift that we leave. We give them the learning that they can have that ongoing conversation, continually have that ongoing conversation when we are not there. And that's the absolute ideal. So you roll into a team, you fundamentally create awareness and insight for them to be able to up the quality of their dialogue. And then you roll out in its sheer simplicity, and then you roll out. Okay. So I'm guessing we have about 5 minutes left in this conversation. Nitin, any comments, any questions? And I'm open to any questions from any of you.
I think you have set a lot of people thinking, but but I think yeah, please anybody please open up and ask questions. We have time for another 5 minutes. From my experience, Saima, I can tell you this has been very, very good session. Yes, you have said that at least me thinking. So,
Thank you.
I think Monica is asking, what are the key things to look out for pitfalls?
Beautiful question, Monica, right? I would start this way round. And a sponsor will come to you and ask the question, come in and do some team coaching. I think the opportunity to get a sense of everybody in the team is really valuable. Meet one-to-one, ideally if you can face-to-face or virtually in this context as I do with some of my teams, and get a sense of them. Let them get a sense of you so they get to understand who you are and what you believe in. Take the opportunity of asking them what's really important to them. What's really important to them about the team, the role that they have within the team, and how does that sit with who they are outside of work? Because work isn't the only thing they do. What else is possible for them? And so once you start to elicit that level of clarity for each individual, you have a real sense of then understanding, Monica, who is it that's coming together in the team? So for me, it's learning to be able to have that type of conversation. And here's another pitfall. Trying to be coach-like and team coaching a conversation with a whole team when the logistics haven't been resolved. You know, how regularly you're going to meet, when you're going to meet, who's going to pay you, how you're going to be paid, what is the purchase order number. You know, I call that the boring stuff. That is not the stuff that lights my fire. So given it's boring, I deal with it really early up front. Strap it all down. Agree what we're agreeing. We know exactly what we're doing, and then start working throughout the whole team. In my early days, I wasn't experienced enough to do that. So 18, 20 years ago, I thought I had the ability to run both of those in parallel, and it's not effective. Because if you're running around trying to arrange how somebody's going to pay you or a purchase order or whether the invoice is being paid in on time, what are the terms of the invoice payments, and you're trying to be in a place where you're coaching the team, can be, you know, it just gets in the way. Remember before I was talking about our conscious and unconscious bias. So let's just get some of that stuff out of the way. One other pitfall is clarifying, you know, whose is the agenda to which you're working towards. Because if there's just one leader who says, this is what is our agenda and we're all working towards it, then we know we're going to have trouble. That's not team coaching. The pitfall then is that we're just delivering what the guy who's paying us wants for us to deliver. Be mindful that you're engaging everybody in what is their individual agenda, and then of course collaborately, you know, collectively generate real clarity so that it deeply resonates with each and every one of the members in the team that this is what we're working towards. So for me, fundamentally, those are the three things, Monica, and I trust I've answered your question.
Saima, I have a quick question before you wind up. Suppose a team of a group of people who are top performers, each one positive, energetic, but the leader wants some coaching to be done to solve a specific issue. Leaders can have conflicts in a senior leadership team, and good conflicts are very good. It's positive for the organization. You challenge each other. In the process of forging a team spirit and team alignment, do you see a pitfall in where you can run down the individual competence of the participant members? Think about 2-3 stars in the team, and which is more important, the collective team success or the individual succeeding together? The sum total is much bigger than the team itself.
MG, I think you've just answered your own question there, my dear.
Yeah.
I think you've just answered your own question. We want each individual to be healthy. Without mindfulness from each individual, we are not going to be in a position for that team to be cumulatively wiser than they are individually.
Thank you.
So that,
You got it. Thank you.
Monica, let me step in and just answer this quick question that I'm seeing from you. You're asking, what if there's conflict between the sponsor and the team's agenda? Well, you know, often we are invited to come in and work in organizations where the boss will say, I want this team to do this. And the team are going, no, but we need to be doing this. Well, the reason I'm being paid, clearly in that context, is so that I can tell the team what the boss hasn't yet learned how to tell the team. And so there's a real simple opportunity here to gather these people together and get for them to be able to speak with each other, with, you know, in complete whole dialogue, and that there is clear active listening from the other party, from the other person. Nitin, I'm noticing we've run out of time.
Yep. We have 1 minute over the hour. So I would say thank you, Saima. This has been a very, very interesting session and a learning session as well. And thanks everybody for joining in.
Just before you all disappear, I just wanted to share my last slide. The World Bank press release from October 2018 is where I got some of those statistics from. So there's the link. Nitin, I think I'll email you the slides so that you can send that across to everybody so they have it.
Yes. I would request you to do that, because I'm going to upload these in our website in some time.
Okay.
So thank you.
Nitin, hi, Rekha here. Can I ask one question to Saima? Is it okay?
Okay.
Saima, I have this is Rekha here, and I have a question to you. Have you had an experience where in team coaching there are 3 sets of people where a couple of them could be high performers, medium performers, and low performers, and low performers are typically their morale is low and they're not willing to participate so much? Would you be able to share some light on that, about your experience on the same?
Yeah, and you know, I'm currently engaged in one of those teams that you've just described now. Right. And fundamentally, the bottom line question for me is, how is there such disparity in the team? What's happened? And often in that context for me, Rekha, it's because they've lost connection, deep connection to the overarching objective of the team. So we go back to, we go back to basics. We go back to number one. We start to create real clarity about what is the vision here. And for those of you who are familiar with Reiki, or Reiki as some people describe it, we will go back to, room 101 when it comes to sharing.
Yeah.
I'm happy to stay and continue to answer questions. It's only raining here in Oxford, so it's fine.
You go ahead, Saima. I think there was a disturbance in between. I've muted you. Go ahead.
Okay. What else? What else is there out there that might be of value to you?
Thank you. You really answered my question. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
Okay, I guess then it's time to say thanks, Saima, and have a very, very nice day. And I will
Thank
definitely
you all.
get back with you in some time.
Definitely will. I send my love to you all. Safe onward journeys in your coaching, my dears. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Saima. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.